Salutations everyone, and welcome to What Mattered, the show where I tell you what mattered in the news this week. Strike one for the little guys. Team Rocket finally beat Ash in a completely fair fight. Took almost 20 years, 459 episodes, something like that. Just goes to show, just don't give up. Don't ever. There's gonna be a Minions too. Give up. We got a new trailer for Mass Effect Andromeda showing us more things that we will be banging come March 21st when the game comes out. We got Cora Harper, which, interesting enough, is the same last name as the Elusive Man. Don't know if there's going to be a connection there or not. Liam, we got to see more of our Krogan buddy. We got to see this new alien dude, which is pretty cool, and more of the Tempest. And so, yeah, we're going to be banging this, and this. So yeah, there's going to be a lot to bang in this game, and all of it is very bangable. So very much excited. Still no word yet if there's going to be some sort of open beta. It's coming out March 21st, so maybe something mid-February? Who knows? But we can only just wait and hope that they show us more things that we can bang. We were shown a little bit more of the backstory of the Pathfinders and their mission. We also got to see Papa Ryder for the first time, and they also showed a bit of Scott Ryder instead of Sarah Ryder, which we saw mostly in other footage that we previously saw. So we don't know if for promotional materials they're going to be splitting them up. Sarah Ryder was the only one who seems to be getting her own Funko, and when it comes to your Shepard in the original Mass Effect trilogy, Fem Shep was kind of the go-to Shep, even though Male Shep was on all the game cases except for the collector's edition of the third one where it was one on one side, one on the other side. It was mostly more focused on Male Shep when it came to trailers and promotional materials and stuff like that. But the fandom has definitely gone with Fem Shep as their canon Shep for most cases, unless you wanted a different romance option, is really the only time we ever saw someone playing a Male Shep for the most part. So it's interesting that they will be showing more of Scott Ryder than Sarah Ryder, which is, you know, not the way that their fan base seems to have been going in the past. Who knows if there's some big wigs out of touch with reality that think, oh, we need a man out there, otherwise the boys aren't going to play video games, because, you know, that's going to happen. But we don't know. It's just interesting to see, you know, the difference between what we've seen so far and the more of a prevalent presence of Scott Ryder as opposed to Sarah Ryder. But hey, she's the one getting the Funko, along with PB and, like, everyone else. Liam, he's got 2 Omni Blades. What a badass and a hottie. I mean, Star Wars Episode 8 finally has its title, as we were expecting sometime late January, early February. Star Wars The Last Jedi. Now, this has been having the internet a buzz. The logo's red. This logo's only been read 2 other times, Return of the Jedi and Revenge of the Sith. So people think, oh, is this going to be dark? Is someone going to die? Is there only going to be 1 Jedi left? So people are like, who's the last Jedi? Who's the last Jedi? Well, if you watch the opening crawl to The Force Awakens, it literally says Luke Skywalker, the last Jedi. So I think that's really the only clue we should be looking into. Obviously, Rey's, you know, looking to be trained, so is definitely not a full-fledged Jedi. Hell, Luke wasn't until after the Return of the Jedi. After, you know, defeating Palpatine and his dad. So people are still going to speculate about tons of things. We're still very little that we know about it. We don't know when we would first expect a trailer, but December, Star Wars, Rey, Luke, who knows? All I can say, I'm excited. Beta season has kicked off for Yavidya games. We're starting to see those start to roll out, which is very exciting. Last year, I felt like had like a record number of betas after beating the previous year's records and yada yada. We're going to see a lot more betas because they seem to do fairly well. We know that the Injustice beta is coming out and that Injustice 2 is going to be at EVO. So that's very exciting. And a lot of people are really hyped for that beta and the new mechanics of that game. And Ghost Recon, Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Wildlands will be starting its beta on February 3rd. Now, there was a lot of kind of riding on this with the success slash flop that The Division was. It sold like millions and millions and millions of copies. It was Ubisoft's biggest launch of all time. And this is a company with a lot of successes. But really started to go to the wayside when people saw the lack of content in the end game and all the bugs and all of the exploits that people were doing, especially in the Dark Zone. And they kept having to push back, you know, the DLC because they had to fix all this stuff. And there were things that were broken that weren't working, the missions and the dailies, and everything was all out of whack. And Ghost Recon Wildlands was pushed back an entire year, so hopefully we don't run into those problems. Obviously, this is the kind of game that's going to need a beta to kind of, you know, steam out those wrinkles that we elsewhere would be seeing. But there's still a lot riding on this because we haven't seen much of the game since the last trailer of it almost a year ago at this point. So we don't know if it's going to deliver on all of its big multiplayer promises where you can solo, or you can play with 4-player co-op, you know, drop in, drop out kind of a stuff. So there's definitely a lot that we're going to need to see to get, you know, Ubisoft to give them our money again, because a lot of us were burned, even though I had over 4 days on The Division, obviously worth the price of admission. But a little bit disappointing once it got, you know, past a little few hours into the end game with some obviously positive changes that they did made. But Wildlands seems to be bigger in every single aspect. And hopefully that is the case, and the beta will show us that. Sometimes when two franchises collide, it can be a beautiful thing, and sometimes it can be a blender of disaster. Well, this summer, we're going to find out which of these this will be in Reki Kawahara's two IPs smashed together, Excel World and Sword Art Online. Those characters are going to be meeting up and going up against a brand new threat. So we don't know how this is going to justify their worlds blending together, but there's definitely many different ways that they can go. So we're going to get all the characters from both of the games up against a brand new enemy. Obviously, we won't be expecting English voiceover acting for these games, as is typical with the last, you know, 4 Sword Art Online games. And Excel World hasn't had as many showings, but that is what we would expect based off of this track record. And the new SAO movie has had its premiere and is going to start rolling out in some Fathom events in March. And this week, we also got a tease of some many awesome looking things to come. Very promising things, because Square Enix and Disney have come together to have Square Enix develop a lot of Disney IPs, starting off with, it sounds like, the Avengers, which hasn't really had a proper video game yet, which is kind of crazy with the success of all of those movies. Obviously, like, the first Iron Man had a game on the 360, and that was reviewed very, very, very poorly. And we don't know if Spider-Man is going to be included in this because of his, you know, dual custody with Sony. But he doesn't need, you know, to be in those games because he's got his own games coming out, because he can actually stand out on his own in a video game, when you can't really say that a lot about other Marvel characters that may or may not be in the Avengers. But Square Enix, we know, they develop amazing titles. They develop a lot of really cool shit, from, you know, Deus Ex Machina to Tomb Raider to Final Fantasy to Kingdom Hearts to Life is Strange. There's a lot of good shit that company does. So quality is going to surmount the lack of quantity that we've had for Disney properties, with Disney Infinity being gone. Disney no longer publishing their own games, but just licensing them out to other developers. We know that there's quite a few Star Wars games being worked on, many that we don't know a ton about, outside of there's going to be a Battlefront 2 later this year, and there's also another game being worked on with, you know, Amy Hennig and her team. But as far as, you know, other big Disney properties such as Marvel, we haven't seen anything outside of that Disney Infinity thing that totally died because it was the most successful toy to life video game. Either way, this is good news, and Square Enix, one of the best companies to be with. Your Xbox free games for gold go as follows. For the Xbox One, you'll be getting Lovers in Dangerous Space-Time and Project Cars Digital Edition. And on the 360, as well as Xbox One via backwards compat, you'll be getting Monkey Island 2 Special Edition and The Force Unleashed. Anywho, that is what mattered this week. If you'd like to know what matters in the future, hit the sub button. Wildlands comes out every single Saturday. Hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.